Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is episode 173. Wow, amazing. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara, and I'm so delighted because I'm starting a new series with this. This is the first episode of a series on all the sun in all the various signs of the Zodiac. So it's Cancer season, so we're starting with Cancer, and I'm so delighted because I have here with me both Rachael Middleton and Lindsay Natale joining us, East and West Coasts. Thank you, girls. I'm so grateful, that you're back here and you're helping me inaugurate this particular series. It's interesting because Cancer, it's the goddess, it's feminine energy and it's cardinal energy. So it's very auspicious, I suppose, that I started with. It just kind of fell into place right now, and I just so grateful. I can't imagine better people to that I'm getting help, and I'm just enjoying that support. So it's all good, yummy Cancer stuff. But anyway, so before I get started, just to introduce you guys, if you're new to the channel, all of us, we practice astrology, and we were all connected through Achyuta Bhavadas's Nightlight Astrology course. So we all have a good old strong background in ancient astrology or Hellenistic astrology. So we use whole sign houses and lots of, well, of course, Rachael, she's very multidisciplinary with her astrology. Anyway, so there's that. And so just to kind of introduce yourselves, Rachael, do you want to just say hi? And
Sure. Hi. Nice to be here again. Thank you so much for having us back. I'm really excited to talk about Cancer today. It's one of my favorite signs, being a Cancer.
You are, yeah, I know. How lucky is that? We're
as a
get the Cancer in the house.
We like each other. We're partial to ourselves. We're very clannish. So yes, thank you for having me to talk about this.
Oh gosh, that's perfect. Clannish, right? And iHeartAstrology.net is Rachael and Lindsay both do readings, and iHeartAstrology.net is Rachael's channel or her website, and you can contact her through that. And Lindsay has an awesome, if you haven't seen it already, please check it out. It's awesome. Natale Astrology, Natale. I'll put the link below. Fabulous astrology channel. You'll love her videos, and very well researched. And Natale Gardening, because she's a absolutely fabulous organic gardener as well. And so very great, fun videos, very informative and educational. So don't miss it. I hear my cat behind me. Okay. All right. Now there's two cats in the room. I hope this doesn't end badly. Okay, guys. No, of all the doors that he wants to go in, it's, the one behind me as I'm recording, of course. Hold on a second, guys. I got to do a little intervention here. Okay, that was interesting. That would be my preamble for Leo season. We're a month ahead, Lucas. Okay, you're not here yet. So anyway, so fun. All right, so let's just have fun. Cancer being a cardinal sign, the thema mundi, I just thought we might want to start talking about that. In ancient astrology, there is this thema mundi is Latin for, like the world map. And according to the ancient astrologers, they, this has a philosophical foundation as well as a, it's empirical. It's like observing the skies and understanding the archetypes. We start the chart. I know in modern astrology, you often see it's like Aries, first house, like the beginning of spring, pegged to the equinoxes, but and the solstices and equinoxes. But with Cancer, it's the thema mundi starts with, the world map starts with the first house is Cancer, and that being birth, right? It makes sense. It's like the pattern of life as we move through life, birth. So that's why Cancer rules pregnancy, birth, fertility, vitality, things like that. And then Leo being the next sign, on by the sun, and it moves from there. But the whole idea around, water, it's a cardinal sign. It's the beginning of summer in the northern hemisphere, winter in the south. But you know, when we follow the path of light, you know, it's this great fruition, you know, because in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summer, right? So it's the fruition of light and sunshine. And so it's a water sign, it's a feminine sign, it's ruled by the moon. I'm just going to run through some facts here before we get into it. But Jupiter is, the moon is the domicile ruler, which means that the moon is, that is the Airbnb, right, of Cancers. They're ruled by the moon. And Jupiter is the exaltation ruler. In ancient astrology, we have things called triplicity rulers and exaltation rulers. So Jupiter, it's all about increase and abundance. So naturally, Jupiter, it's very supportive. Anyway, just having said that, okay, enough of me chatting here. What would you like to share about, you know, what comes to your mind around Cancer, and what people need to know about, you know, if they're a Cancer sun or have any planets in Cancer, or how to deal with the Cancer? I know I have some people in my life, but we might as well start with you, Rachael, since you are the in-house Cancer. Tell us about, what is it like to be a Cancer?
Well, first of all, I cannot give away, I can't speak on behalf of all Cancers, of course. And if I could, and I gave away our secrets, I would be totally in trouble. So I will give some tips, but the main thing I always tell people about Cancer is that whatever you see going on with Cancers, it's the tip of the iceberg. And so for that reason, like, it really is, like, in my own experience, and I've talked in private with a lot of other Cancers to confirm this, like, it is very hard for Cancers to feel like they're understood by somebody else. So it's really great when Cancers get together. That's why Cancer bonds are really strong, because there's a lot that's unspoken in all the water signs, and it's definitely true in Cancer, as my Cancer baby just speaks up.
There you go.
Sun, moon, and Mercury all in Cancer. So he's very Cancerian. But when we do talk, we can be a little bit loud, but we're more like comfortable usually being in like a listening role, a receptive role. It's why Cancers are like excellent friends to like talk to. And you'll often hear that like Cancer will be the person that you like
Exactly.
end up like intimate secrets about, because they're good receivers. I'm gonna go on mute.
I love it. Yeah, they are receivers. Yeah, you're right. And it's all about nurturing and family and home and feeling secure. Like you said, if you're a good listener, yeah, you feel safe that you can open up with, you know, Mother Superior. Well, maybe not Mother Superior, but yeah, emotional, that need of, that your vulnerability is being heard and listened to. And how about you, Lindsay? What comes to mind when you think about the archetype of Cancer?
Yeah, when I think about the archetype of Cancer, I love that you brought up the thema mundi, because when I learned about that, it made so much more sense than Aries starting. Well, Aries makes a lot of sense because it's that big bang kind of energy, but by the time the humanity comes into things, which I think when we look at, you know, a natal chart, it's very human centered for people. When we talk about natal charts for people, it's very human centered. And when we came onto the earth as humans, we came initially into water when we were in utero, and we also developed in water as a species. You know, our entire, you know, earth, anything that's alive started in the water. So it makes a whole lot more sense to me that the thema mundi, and it doesn't have as much to do with the hemispheres or anything like that, as well as when it's starting. And I love that we can think about it as just this all-encompassing birth, primordial water where everything begins.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's beautifully said. So
Thanks.
I just pulled this up so people could see what we're talking about here. And here's the sign of Cancer, and that is ruling the ascendant, right? The moon. And then here, you know, the two luminaries, right? The moon and the sun. And then it goes in order of the planets. It's just, I love the design of and that's what I really am so grateful for with learning ancient astrology. It's like the design and the elegance, the beauty and the symmetry of the universe. And here in our local solar system, it's just a fractal of that larger beauty. But here we have this beautiful, you know, the Mercury, you know, being closer to the sun than Venus, And then we have Earth, of course, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, right? The ancients, for everyone who's, new to astrology or may not know, why are we not showing Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto? Because they weren't discovered until the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries in the Western mind. So for thousands of years, this is all that the ancients could see. They could only see the Saturn. But yeah, so this whole idea about Cancer and Cancer, being that rising sign, the birth, the coming out of the womb. And then the sun is like, hey, it's me, I'm here, I'm separate, right? The sun, like you think Leo, the sun, the ego, like I'm separate from my mother's womb. I am my own person and I've just emerged. Now what am I going to do with my life? Well, I'm going to start talking.
Yeah, but to stick with the Cancer archetype and stick with the idea of the moon and the Cancer, I really like too that the moon is the ruler of that first house in the thema mundi of Cancer, because it has so much to do with the water, the tides. It's very earth bound. It's a piece of the earth that, it was another planet that smashed into the earth and became two. So it's a piece of us that's this satellite, but we're part of the moon and the moon is part of us as well. So I love that it's very grounding in our experience that we have day to day as well. The Cancer experience is very, it's very earth-based, like you said, wanting to have nurturing and wanting to have security and wanting to understand family and home. That's all very lunar as well.
Oh, I love it. That's really beautiful. Yeah, and the fact that you're right, it's the closest celestial object to the earth, so naturally it's going to have an effect on us. And as we know, with the tides and planting, here you are, the organic gardener, right? It's like, when do you plant? You plant on the new moon. You never plant on a balsamic moon. And
exactly.
It all makes so much sense.
Yes. And it's also, like you said, you're talking a really great point about how you said first you've got that Cancer energy, which is very, it's initiating, but it's also an interior initiation. It's for the soul, it's for the emotion, and it's for finding out who you are. And then when you get to Leo, it's like, okay, here I am, I'm ready to shine it out. But you need to have that interior space first. You need to have that quiet moment. You have to have the receptive, where before you can shine it out, you kind of need to know what you're going to shine out. And I think you can find that in the Cancer archetype. In any place everybody has it in their chart somewhere. It's where do you need to go to find that groundedness in securing yourself, your own emotions, your soul, in order to put that back out into the world and share that with others.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. What came to me as you were saying that is maybe we could go around the zodiac wheel and we could say, okay, if you have Cancer if you have a Cancer rising, what kind of that energy, and then second house, third house, kind of go around the wheel. What do you think of that?
You
want to start, Rachel? You want to start?
Yeah, I would love to. That sounds great. I mean, we're not going to be able to be exhaustive by any means, but I definitely have always said Cancer rising very different than Cancer sun.
Absolutely.
Like. The rising sign will always talk about your physical appearance. So people that have Cancer rising, and the moon is their chart ruler. So this is going to make because the moon rules them, they have like a very changeable, much more so than everybody else, look, mood. Cancer is above all, I always say, moody. And it's like not a bad thing. It's like the full capacity for the emotional spectrum, without like the judgment, without like, it's other people that have a problem with Cancer's moodiness, usually not Cancer.
Right.
But which I get, not everybody is as emotionally intelligent. And I'm not saying that every Cancer is, but they're definitely emotionally literate, right? Because they go through the whole shenanigan, like the zodiac in a month, the sign that there is their thing. So that's really important to watch. If you're a Cancer rising, is also always Cancer risings and people that have the moon ruling like important things in their chart. Eclipses are going to be more important. Full moons are going to be more important. The lunar cycle in general is going to be more important. And you're more receptive to the transits of the moon. So whatever the transits of the planet that rules your chart is, whenever you want to think about Cancer, think about the moon for sure. Mm-hmm. So we can take that same logic when we go around the zodiac, the wheel of the houses, and know that if you have Cancer ruling your second house, your finances are going to be also like ruled by that moon and ruled by that changeability. Not always, because there are triplicity rulers that come into play, but there's somewhere triplicity moon in every water sign anyway. So the Cancer moon is so strong. So people, when you have Cancer transiting every month through the sign of Cancer in the moon sign, if you are a Cancer rising, that's going to be a really intense, strong time for you. So this is, and it's going to be a little bit flavored differently because the moon is the translator of light and picks up the energies of all the planets. It's like it's the flashlight that moves really quickly. And so Cancer risings are awesome people, but they, they have, I think, a tougher time than they get credit for it. Because a lot of times you'll get a Cancer rising that's like something else in Aquarius, and they'll be not understand why they're so sensitive. Mm-hmm. It won't, especially because Aquarius is in King Kunk's aspect to Cancer. Yeah, it's very important to watch the moon if you're a first house Cancer. So that's the one thing I'd say about the first house.
Yeah, nice. I can piggyback on that. I found that I have somebody very close to, two people in my family that are very, very close to me that are Cancer rising, and they're going to be getting married. So it's one's my family member and one's going to be marrying into the family, but they're both Cancer rising, and took a long time for this person in my family to find a partner. And this Cancer connection, like Rachael said, it's so beautiful to watch, because I feel like her whole life that she wasn't feeling like she was connecting emotionally, especially to partners. And then when she finally found this partner, it's so great to watch them. And I loved learning about astrology to look further into the ascendant. For example, for this person in my life, she has Cancer rising, but her moon is up in the 10th house in Aries. So she changes her hair, she changes her look, she has mermaid kind of hair, colors and stuff like that. And the emotions are very on the surface. It's very easy to see. So that's that 10th house. It's visible to all. And in Aries, the moon in Aries, it's fire. It's like a volcano on the moon sometimes. It's like a volcano on the moon. Yeah. I love it. But the partner is Cancer. Yeah, he's Cancer sun, Cancer rising. So
you hurt my feelings. No,
he's much more nurturing, and he can take that. He can understand her emotions, and I just think it's so beautiful to watch and to pinpoint. So he's a double version of. He's even more of a Cancer rising because he's Cancer sun and Cancer rising. I'm not sure where the moon is.
They're gonna have a merman baby.
Yes, and she even has the little mermaid is tattooed on her arm. So
oh, there you go. Yeah, it tells you everything. That's incredible. And I think too around the let's just keep going with the zodiac. I'll bring that back here to us. For us. So second house. Yeah. So you made a little allusion to that, Rachael. If you have Cancer in your second house of money, finances, personal possessions, maybe there's a holding on, because Cancers tend to cling, right? It's like the crab, has this crabby, you think about the crab with his claws, and he needs to feel safe and he can cling. And that's kind of one of the things I want to say is a negative trait of Cancer is, it's good to cling, but sometimes clinging and too long.
Yeah, that's the negative dark mother kind of image that comes up with the shadow side, I think, of Cancer. It would be that clinging and not letting the baby or the baby grow into what it's meant to be, a grown person. So that's that mother archetype. That's a shadow side of Cancer that I've experienced with other people in my life, and watching that, how they sort of smother. Yeah, it's overwhelming, and the person doesn't get what they need in order to move forward as a grown person. They're sort of arrested development, and I think that's a shadow version of Cancer behavior.
Yeah.
Definitely, I will say that Cancer archetype related to the mother, and people that have Cancer energy often have some kind of mother issue, for better or for worse, and usually both, in their situation, wherever you have Cancer, and if you have Cancer planets. But I also want to make a distinction that the way people experience Cancer and the way that Cancer is in itself as a sign are not the same, because yes, the cleanliness can happen from a Cancer human being that is, or a heavily influenced by the sign Cancer human being who doesn't like that changeability in itself. Cancer. So where you have that sign, unless it's in a personal place, personal planet, or the first house, for example, it's going to describe not you as a person. So Gemini risings with Cancer in the second house, are they clinging with money? In my experience, Gemini risings are not cheap for the most part, and hoardy with money. They actually spend and cycle their money pretty quickly. They have a lot of like lunar, like in and out kind of flow. And it can also, I've also seen many organic farmers and people in the food service industry with Gemini rising, because it's one of the ways, it's like a kind of a industry is ruled by that's Cancerian. And so it's where your resources come from. And also, the second house has to do with things that support you and that you support both. So again, it's not going to be exactly the same. We can talk about Cancer's general significations, which are important, but then look to the moon placement in that chart and
more info.
Where's it going to come from? It's going to come from not just the ruler of Cancer and the moon. It's going to be the triplicity rulers, actually, that are going to tell. So that'll be, different parts of the life, the triplicity rulers of water, which are Venus, Mars, and the moon, in that order for day. And then you would switch it, and it would be Mars, Venus, and the moon in the order. But the moon is still going to be the last part of life money place for all the Cancer risings. So, Gemini risings. So, yeah, it's very important when we're looking at the houses and talking about the sign in the house and like the sign in that house, to realize that people aren't the same as signs. Signs are really big, like energies, and people's response to them in different places. Like maybe you do want to have like changeability. Like changeability for the human is hard because we are like just trying to keep up. That kind of stuff is hard for humans, but it's like, it's actually sometimes a good flow for things like money, because in and out, like the flow of things, instead of being stagnant, sometimes could be better. So, but ups and downs and changes throughout the money situation is also something I've seen with Gemini risings. So if you're as a Gemini rising, don't fret, it's going to get better quick. Hopefully.
Okay, what about third house? Rachel or Lindsay, who wants to talk about third house? Lindsay, if you have Cancer in your third house, ruling the third house?
Yeah, the third house, that would put Taurus on the ascendant.
Yeah. And then, I think we can just focus more on the Cancer part of this. Like Cancer in the third would be, I would say emotional communication, very vulnerable communicating. And again, of course, it depends on where the moon is. And it's
so what I would say, exactly. Just to be more, we can just bring it, more succinct and just give some keywords. I think that would be great. But for Cancer in the third house, what I would say is you talked about communication. This would be somebody who's really instinctually, emotionally, and soul connected to their communication. So when they speak, when they express themselves, it goes very, very deep, and they could possibly, not want to share as much of their soul because they can't help it. Like all of it wants to come out. So it could be very difficult at times to, express that without being hurt based on reactions to people and your communication, but not just speaking. This could be writing, could be photography, music, anything like that. But also, I would say that this person can trust their instincts on what they have to say. But it might be something that they have to learn through time to be able to trust their instincts to speak and communicate their truth.
Beautiful. Thank you. Then the fourth house ruling the home. And this would be, for me, what comes up is this, very, very emotionally attached to one's roots, probably very passionate around genealogy and family history, things of that nature. Homebody for sure, or cozy at home. And, these are, again, general significations that can very much be mitigated by the position of the moon and the sign of the moon is in, and the aspects it makes to that fourth house. But just generally speaking, yeah, Cancer in the fourth, that, you know, emotional homeland, you know, a deep current that connects one to the past and to the home. That's what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what comes up for me.
One thing about when we have Cancer on the fourth, we have Aries rising. And so we're going to have the cardinal cross as an axis. So the moon is going to be, again, just like when it was on the first house, a stronger player. Eclipses are going to affect the angles more and more dramatically. And we're going to have a cardinal person, but like the cardinal energies have an interest, like all of this, the energies that are of the same modality, cardinal, fixed, or mutable, have an interesting chemistry with them. So when we have somebody that's an Aries rising, who's ruled by Mars and the sun is exalted, in that Cancer place in their life, it's a square energy. So like the Aries rising wants to go out and be like independent and known for themselves and do what they want when they want. But having Cancer on the fourth house of the home and of, you know, if in traditional it would be father, there's that like very traditional type of lunar energy hidden in the most dark night of the chart. So I would say that one thing about the fourth house to remember is it's in the midnight, it's invisible, but that is a very compatible energy with Cancer, which is silence, which is like the womb, that like it's the exterior shell of the crab. The crab symbol is also very telling for Cancer. I always think about that. You know, they're on the they live in the threshold between water and earth on the side. They walk sideways. They have this hard shell. It's like Cancer is very comfortable with contradiction. And it can embrace it in a way without the judgment or the aggression of the rest of the cardinal signs. So it's a good energy to have on the fourth house, in my opinion. And again, everything we always said about, you know, the moon being a role player in the fourth house matters is going to be key. So, yeah.
Okay, fifth house, the house of pleasure, the joy of Venus, love affairs, sex, romance, children, childhood, creativity. What do you think?
This is a Pisces rising, and these people are extremely romantic in my experience, and they have like very romanticized views about children sometimes, and all the Cancer stuff. Like they can be excellent cooks and excellent, like take a lot of pleasure and joy in spending time with kids. And it's like because it's that fifth house, it's like the Cancer things, they really enjoy the Cancer energy.
Yeah,
they like
cooking, you know, and crafts. And,
yeah, being at home. They're like okay with being at home a little bit more than the average bear.
Yeah, and I'd say that this is a person that also doesn't mind retreat, likes to go to be on their own and enjoy that alone time, to have that space for themselves too. And it's fun for them to kind of have that space of their own in their home, their own little spot, and and also a lot of water activities. They love to swim, or they love to, you know, maybe not swim, but anything that has to be around water, that's really pleasurable and enjoyable activities for them.
Bubble baths, staycation. It's all very right.
Water is critical for their joy and pleasure and happiness.
How about the sixth house? We've got that's a tough house. That's the joy of Mars, the sixth house, right? It's like a little, it can be a struggle. It can be conflicting.
Yes, and also so the sixth house, when you have Cancer on the sixth house, we have Aquarius rising, and anytime you have sixth house and eighth house are in aversion to the ascendant, that energy is different. It's not a compatible element or a compatible modality, and it can be a blind spot that you have. So when you have Cancer on the sixth, you have to be careful sometimes about how your emotions are affecting your health unconsciously. That's something that people that have a strong moon placement are very aware of. And I think it's something that it's true about all human beings. The mind-body connection is real for all of us. But when you have Cancer or the moon on the sixth, it can be a blind spot that's happening for you. And it's also, again, the house of work and toil. And so it can feel like a drag sometimes, some of those Cancer things.
A struggle to take care of oneself, you know? self-care. That's a
Or,
real,
yeah, or even
insight.
overindulgence, you know, and having to not being able to control maybe emotional eating or something like that could be an issue.
Or control their mother, or be a controlling mother. It could be all of the above. All right, now we're into the 7th house. So we've got Cancer, that would be in a Capricorn rising. And as Cancer on the 7th house cusp, which is the marriage house, it's any partnerships, collaborations with others. 7th house. Needs to be mothered in a relationship. I don't know. There was this guy that I dated years ago, and a friend of mine, when I was looking at his chart, I was learning astrology, and I was just asking about, like, what do you think this, he's got Cancer on this guy who's dating. He's got Cancer on the 7th house cusp. And well, she was very, very tell it like it is, but she said, well, I don't know about this guy. He's got to be mothered. He wants to be mothered in his relationships. He's got to, and I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like, and I used to have to stop him sometimes and say, I am not your mother, or I am not your secretary. But he needed this care and support all the time. And I'm like, it's okay, it's to a certain point, but then it's like, it got a lot. It was enough. It was a lot. Yeah, Cancer on that 7th house.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Go ahead, Rach.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just going to say the people that I've experienced with Capricorn rising, which puts Cancer on the 7th house, it obviously will depend where the moon is. But to talk about the partner, that we'll talk about the marriage partner, or people that you can get along with well in life, or that maybe will be 7th house is also enemies that are out in the open, right?
Open enemies,
so,
yeah.
Open enemies. So it could be also people. Just think about that Capricorn rising energy is just so opposite of Cancer energy too. Like everything has an opposite, but those two, it's like that really can be diametrically opposed with what you present to the world and what you are trying to balance in your relationship. So I can see how that can sometimes be, depending on where the moon is, though.
Yeah,
in the chart.
absolutely.
I have one weird thing that I'm running through my Rolodex of all the Cancer risings that I know, and it's like
Rolodex.
something out in me, and definitely all of them in my case that I remember, all men have very high respect for like the mothers in their lives, either their own mother, or if they're in a relationship and they have kids, they're the mother of their children.
Did you say Capricorn rising or Cancer rising?
Yeah.
Okay. First, you're talking about Capricorn rising. Okay.
Yeah. So moon on the 7th. So they really honor the partner's mothering. And that's, so yes, they could definitely want to have that get back if they don't like, but if they're in a relationship where they are representing their father archetype, because that's them as Capricorn rising, fulfilling that archetype, they will respond strongly to the mother archetype in other people. And that doesn't have to be their primary partner only. Definitely have, and evidence out. And this, so again, and yes, I agree that they want a lot of care in relationships, but they give, like the ones that I'm thinking of are just as equally giving care. It's like the 7th house shows the kind of partner that maybe you want, and especially the first duplicity ruler shows that even more. But sometimes, like specifically Earth and a more terrestrial, but in general, like kind of quality of a partner, it shows like your ideal, what you
Idealized.
want. Yeah, exactly. What you actually end up with is more the triplicity ruler.
Yeah, exactly.
The ideal, like, that would be shown by the moon sign and then Cancer. So yeah, it's definitely more of a Cancer is very traditional. Capricorn is the most conservative sign of the zodiac, and it's Cancer is the most feminine. So definitely in this type of person is going to maybe be a little bit more, not always in all cases, but like more in the traditional scheme of wanting to have that kind of experience.
Nice, thank you. All right, 8th house. The 8th house, the idle place, as they call it in ancient astrology. 8th house, sex, death, and taxes. Life and death. And taxes.
The
Did I
eighth,
say
the eighth,
taxes?
yeah, you said taxes. I was going to say that the eighth house for me, I love thinking about the eighth house. I'm Scorpio rising, so eighth house is an energy I enjoy thinking about. The eighth house for me is more than just that. It's that, but it's also going back to how we were tribal at some point for a long, long period of time. And the fear that goes with the eighth house is the feeling of insecurity of not being supported. So if you don't have your tribe, you don't have the support that you're fearful of losing constantly, that's a loss that it could cause some fear. So if you have Cancer there, it's probably a really deep water, a very sensitive spot. Probably need a lot more, not recognition, but reassurance that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, because you think about the concept of survival.
Yes,
possibly
survivalist.
Deep subconscious patterns of survival. Yeah, that and a fear of letting go. As the idol, like in the how the progression of the light is starting to fade and go down into the descendant. So it's like, oh, I'm hanging on, not hanging on. Feeling nurtured in the unknown. It's like
thinking too, those old times, like you need the fire, you need people, you need people around you to survive.
Yeah.
And the Cancer in the eighth, we might have a need for a clan or have a group around them to feel secure in that way.
Yeah, help them through those survival issues. Yeah, you're right. Family and clan. I like that. That word clan, clannishness. Yeah. And then we have the ninth house, the house of God in ancient astrology. So it has to do with the spiritual wisdom, philosophy, religion, travel, foreign travel, foreign cultures. So Cancer there.
I have Cancer there. So
you do? Eric, fire away.
Cancer in the ninth house. I have Cancer in the ninth house, Aquarius moon in the fourth. So it goes really to any sort of education, philosophy, higher learning, anything that's travel oriented, different cultures. Obviously, I'm married to an Italian from Italy. That's my home. I imported, travel to my home. But for anything general, I would say that when you have a person with Cancer in ninth house, that those things go straight to the heart. Philosophy, religion, not necessarily, but spiritualism. Ninth house also has to do with learning astrology, right? So if you are interested in astrology, that can also, Rachael and I've talked to that before, like you look at your triplicity ruler and you can find out what kind of astrology that you really should be doing and be focusing on. So it's a good placement.
Thank you. Cancer ruling the 10th. That's me. So I have to be like the mother superior, just deep emotional connections in my career and in the public eye. I have to say, I hate those like auto-generated emails, like running a business and having, of course there's efficiency, but I don't like when, dear blank, and like, oh no, I have to personalize everything. And I need to it's so important to me to create that emotional bond and talk to people and, how are you, and personalize it. How is your dog doing? I can't, it has to be that deep emotional bonding. And that's not always easy, especially in the business world. They don't, when I work in the corporate world, not an easy time.
Just wanting to riff off of that, but did you feel like sensitive in your work in a way that you put yourself out there, and if people didn't necessarily appreciate what you were doing, did it kind of go straight to your heart?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in my earlier years when I worked in the corporate world, and it was like, I also had female bosses, and they were basically the bosses from hell. I mean, they really were. It reminded me of, what was that movie, with Meryl Streep?
Oh yeah, The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. I just laughed at it. Well, I was in New York, and I just remember thinking, oh, this is the story of my life. All this crazy woman who just wanted everything, and your life. I have a dear friend, and she has the same placement, and she has Saturn, Mercury, MC up in 10th house Cancer. And she gets into these positions where she becomes the mother in her work.
she mothers the people in her work. She's the mother archetype for people coming to her for problem solving, people coming to her to, offload their emotions, cry on their shoulder.
It would be the kind of person that would have like I remember this. I didn't know astrology back then when I was in the corporate world back in the 80s, but there was a woman, there's always one archetype. Somebody in the office always has like a big glass jar full of like jelly beans or something. And people will go in and talk and they offload and they, it's like there's always somebody like that. And that's very Cancerian. Here, let me feed you as we talk about your feelings.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah. So, all right. 11th house, the house of the joy of Jupiter, friends, alliances, peers, colleagues, hopes, wishes, dreams, groups, groupthink. Is that a word? Groupthink, think. Anyway,
that's my placement. Actually, I'm a sun in 11th house Cancer sun. So, and I've definitely participated in a ton of groups and I love them. And it's like, I feel really at home in all the groups that I've ever participated in. I'm in a lot of moms groups also,
right.
Which is like literal experience of it. And the 11th house also is kind of like, what you're thinking about, like in the future, like what you're like, if they say wishes, hopes, and dreams, it's like, I'm always like focused on very like immediate personal domestic things in a long range type of like large way. Like I'm thinking like, so people that have Cancer on the 11th house can feel really like communally connected with a wide array of people and can have like deep friendships that there's 3rd house friendships and there's 11th house friendships. The 11th house friendships are like our friendships. We don't actually like we're friends because we are interested in similar things. We have a friend
an alliance.
Even for us, it says it's the goals that you have and the people that you bring into your life to meet those goals. It's like network like that. So I always am involved in networking with tons of women and moms and like around food. I've been involved in a lot of, also I want to say Cancer creates and starts new things. I've founded probably 12 clubs.
Whoa, 12 clubs. Dang, that is a Cancer ruling the 11th house. I started 12 clubs. I love it. Too, there's this mantra that I wanted to say, I could just bring it up now. A mantra for, with the anything Cancerian, that if you need nurturing and all, there's these divine mother mantras, and there's this one called the Green Tara mantra in Buddhism. It's Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, and it's also known as the Green Tara mantra. But the Green Tara is in Buddhism is the Bodhisattva, an enlightened being, a compassionate being, but it's the Bodhisattva of compassion and action. And so I thought, wow, that's so perfect for cardinal sign Cancer, right? That like you could call on the Bodhisattva, with this Green Tara with this. I know the Dalai Lama, that when they asked him when the pandemic opened up, he said, they said, well, what mantra would you recommend? And he recommended that mantra, the Green Tara mantra. But it's just something that you mentioned that I just thought, I know she just jumped off, but that's okay. Yeah, that whole thing about compassion and action. And yeah. How about the 12th house? Ooh, boogity 12th house. That is probably the most difficult house in the zodiac, but it always has the greatest opportunity as well. The darker we go.
I love the 12th house. It's actually my favorite.
It is really?
Yes, probably because I have Scorpio rising and Mars is in the 12th. So I have a real affinity for the 12th house. And I have several really close people in my life that have 12th house Cancer placements. And they have had real big struggles with mom.
Oh yeah.
Really big struggles with mom. Those are people that I've had experience with. Just based on their experience, that's just part of the blind spot. And they have in order to like heal that, they need quite a bit of time and self-awareness on that and to be able to process it. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody with 12th house, but a lot of the people that I've experienced that have had 12th house Cancer, it's just part of their journey of one of the more challenging things that they have to go through in order to evolve and get through and experience another version of that to sort of repave the pavement.
Right, because Saturn is it's the joy of Saturn in the 12th house. So yes, things it can feel cold and melancholy and lonely and depressive, but over time, I love the fact that Saturn there's this notion of regeneration through time, like time heals all wounds, you know. And so yes, that's the hope of the 12th house, is that there's always a regenerative quality that you have to be patient for, and maybe when you're older or whatever, that you see the turnaround in that you get the wisdom of it. And
just like all of these placements that we've been talking about, it all depends on where the moon is in your chart. So if, for example, one person that I was thinking particularly had big trouble with mom, had the moon in the 12th house as well. Moon in the 12th house in Cancer, it's in its home sign, its domicile, but it's just even more of a daily experience. Like that's something that they have to deal with often. Right. This mother challenge is just part of their life more often than not. And it's a big part of their experience on Earth. Yeah, I can feel like I love the word that Chuda used, not windswept. What do you call it when you're shipwrecked? Yeah, it's like any sign in there that's what the house represents. So, feeling shipwrecked or feeling there's a loss of agency, that you can't seem to get your feet, solid regarding Cancerian themes, mother, family, home, but addictions. Yeah, exactly. But what's usually, I find the more I learn astrology, the more I come to this realization that whatever is the cause or whatever is the problem, the same thing is the cure. So if you have a problem in that 12th house and it's difficult, you have a problem that keeps, like feeling shipwrecked or not seen or lonely, it is a place where you have to go. That's a very retreating place where you have to go and really understand that, but you have to go deep to understand it. But usually whatever is the cause, it's also the cure. So you find those elements and, reclaim them for your own self. The same things that cause the problems. Neat. Well, let me see. Thank you. That was great. That was a deep dive through the 12 houses. I wasn't expecting it to be that, but I'm very grateful. I think we're all really grateful. I just wanted to say, we covered the Queen Tara. I have some lists of famous celebrities who are Cancers. And the other thing is, just coming up here, lightening it here. Things to do, how to best deal with a Cancer, what to avoid, what to do, or when it's for everyone, like right now, we're in Cancer season as I'm recording this. So, what to do in Cancer season. But so if you're dealing with a Cancer, I know for me, it's like really be a listener, warm fuzzy always works. Literally, a warm fuzzy sweater. But I would say too, like the thing to avoid would be like, Cancer, that energy can freeze. Like you think about the properties of water. Water can flow or can become vapor and disappear or can become ice. So don't like freeze out your emotions where you're not available, and or ghosting. Like I think of if water evaporates like into vapor, it's like you could ghost somebody that you don't like. Cancel culture, So those are just things I'm coming up with. How about you guys?
Well, Cancer's reputation for being very sensitive is, I believe, true. And so, and they're sensitive about being sensitive. Yeah.
Right, so exactly.
They appreciate it when they meet a person that appreciates their sensitivity, very much. So if you want to actually like make a Cancer feel good, then you just have to accept whatever is going on without a lot of, Cancer is very reflective, very projecting, it's the moon, it's very unconscious energy, and we don't want everything about every energy to be conscious. Don't you want to have some parts of your body that function without you thinking about it? Don't you want to blink and breathe and all of that stuff? And aren't those things important? So Cancer's like usually not given the credit for being as like, we get written off a lot for not being, for our intelligence not being, we get told we're irrational, and it's true. But that doesn't mean unwise at all times. That doesn't mean incorrect always. And so to honor the irrational parts of yourself in balance with the rational thing is something that's good to do in Cancer season, because even if you're not a Cancer, the feelings of everybody are going to be more intensified. The emotional reaction is going to be stronger. They're very emotionally reactive, and that can work out well, and that can work out really uncomfortably. But like I said, it's a full spectrum emotional experience. And so don't get caught up if you don't like the way something is. Like, I live in South Florida. It's like, if you don't like the weather, wait a few minutes, it'll change. And that's how Cancer do. And so they have an ability to forgive people and to move on. Actually, they're not as clingy as you think, but they don't forget, of course.
Right. Memory is a huge thing. That's why they love genealogy. It's like, but that can also, you know, the shadow of memory is like, I remember when when
Totally.
I have this relative, no names, but it's like,
because I wanted to,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Pre-show, when I was thinking about like what I would even think to say about Cancer that's most important for like tips, is that yes, it's an opportunity. Like, Cancer can't get away from their sentimentality and being strongly memory based. So they need to work with memory in a positive way. They're very receptive to creating new memories, and they're like the plasticity of the emotional body is very great. It's just that it also easily goes into habitual ruts, like so it's like you have to work with like you were saying, the strength is the weakness is the strength, and a lot of this time. So Cancer also, definitely, it was mentioned before, but use water. Like for me, I'm a Cancer sun, and for my vitality, I always have to have like a shower, like head, like forest water, cardinal water, or like I love being in like real waterfalls. That's like a Cancer water. It's very powerful, and water hydrotherapy is extremely healing for Cancers or anybody that has Cancer, anywhere you have a Cancer placement, for sure. All the water signs, but definitely Cancer.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that a little bit, but because every month I do activities for each sign. And so I've just finished making my activities for Cancer, and those are perfect. That's part of it, is the water. And so one I didn't mention in my video is float tanks. So it's an immersion of water. So you go into a sensory, it's like a saltwater tank. It's individual, it's private. Sometimes you can go in with another person, but probably better to go by yourself, because when you have that space yourself, it feels like you're in utero again. And there's so much in our world where we're not just sitting, but we probably have our phone, or we probably are, watching this or that, or doing something. But this Cancer energy, being in a float tank like that, where sensory deprivation, it allows that nothingness moment, which is rare nowadays. And having that space for delicious nothingness, like a quiet self-time, just floating in a womb-like environment. And it might be uncomfortable at first for some people, because we're just not used to nothingness and but it's the main takeaway for me for Cancer, and Rachael, please let me know what you think about this, is that it's not about thinking or analyzing, it's about feeling first.
Right.
It's feeling first. And so I just wanted to share that one.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, that flotation tank is it's like a machine. Sounds funny, a machine womb, but it creates the womb environment. And how important is that? That's awesome. And staying hydrated for sure when it's Cancer season, no matter where we have this in our chart, staying hydrated. And I would say too, in terms of emotions, like not being present and noticing when we want to hang on to the past in an unhealthy way. I like what Rachael said about positive use of that, like putting together a family scrapbook or genealogy, the family tree, like that's a positive, happy connection with memories in the past.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia. But hanging on to old hurts. It's like, well, in 1983, you said blah blah, and it's like, okay, like, can we let that go? Like maybe, because the only person it hurts, is ourselves. and being very much about their environment. You know, it's like the crab, they get crab, like if you, who moved my cheese? You know, it's like, oh God, okay, it's all right. Okay, it's all right, I'll put the cheese back, you know. It's like, yeah, you can get a lot.
Yeah, that's extremely, cancers are very much affected by their environment. So it's super true. And so cancers, if you're in a bad space and you're in a bad mood, maybe change the space and see if your mood improves.
Yeah,
that's
great advice.
Moving to a different room in the house, or a different, like going outside, because we cannot help it in a way. It's just like the receptivity is so great.
Yeah.
That it's like it is bad that we don't have great boundaries. That's why the crab is like, I mean, is that a great boundary? I don't know. It's a very firm boundary, but then it's like, is it too strong? And it's like, has to be strong because it's protecting this gelatinous.
Right.
Whatever. But the
I
other good thing
in
cancer, you know, you can take one crab's arm off and throw it back in the ocean and it'll regenerate.
Really? That's like a salamander. I didn't know that crabs could do that. Wow, that's crazy. Regeneration, right? It's all birth and fertility and regeneration, life in all its, yeah, that's wild. So I just want to wrap this up by saying, I have this list of really cool people, cancers. Ariana Grande, these are the people with Sun in Cancer. Selena Gomez, Khloe Kardashian, Elon Musk is a Cancer. Who knew? The comedian Kevin Hart, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, they're both Cancers. Princess Diana was a Cancer. Tom Cruise is a Cancer, very much in the news right now. Prince William, there's a lot of Cancerian energy here. Malala, you know Malala, the girl from Afghanistan, Yousafzai, who won the Pulitzer, the Nobel Peace Prize, yeah, like 16, yeah. You think about her standing up for the rights of women, you know, Sun and Cancer, really powerful, sweet, lovely, wonderful people. So anyway, I've run out of things to say about Cancer. I don't know about you, but I'm good. I think we've given everybody a really good, thorough, this is like Cancer school here.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so again, just to say that you can reach Rachael at iheartastrology.net, and you must watch Lindsay's channel, the two, El Natale Astrology and El Natale Gardening, both wonderful, great sources of education. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. Your mothers, and you're such awesome mothers, and I learned so much from you, so I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Irlianna. I'm so grateful for you and Rachael as well.
Right.
Love you. Thanks.
All right. I'll see everybody soon, and this has been a wonderful episode, and this is your host signing off, Irlianna Samsara and Lindsay Natale and Rachael Middleton, all bidding you adieu until the next time. This is StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Take care.